has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great son, Sergeant Dr. Nkrumah.
The station is Pan-African Television, and the program is the mother of all talk shows, ALHAJI and ALHAJI, and we are live. It is my pleasure to say a very good morning to you and welcome you to another edition of the show. My name is Sena, Nombo. Here we say it as it is, no matter who is involved in it, and we'll leave you better educated. Don't forget, it's live on Pan-African Television, but not only Pan-African Television. It's also live on Volta One TV in Ho. It is live on Skaba Radio Online. It's also live on Ahunto 92.3 FM within the Greater Accra region. It's live on several affiliate radio stations across the country. Zebs FM in Zebela, Bewa Radio in Yendi, Matambo Radio in Tamale, Diamond FM in Tamale. We also have Radio Kitao in Saboba. We have other affiliates in other parts of the country. I'll be going through them as we go along in the show. Once again, welcome. I hope you're having a good Saturday and you had a wonderful weekend. I've been giving you an update as to where the trade is heading to in terms of the Obasima train, women having conversations about everyday issues. And this morning, the train is on the campus of the alma mater of Mr. Pratt, the GIJ campus. So if you're a lady on the GIJ campus, join them and have a conversation about issues that are affecting women. That's very important. But the show this morning is talking about the issue of security. Last week we talked about it. This week we have to talk about it again. 2 billion vans under attack. Mobile money agents complaining that their jobs have become one of the most dangerous in Ghana. Police officers killed. So we are talking about security and threats from Burkina Faso. That's what we are spending some time on. And our very first topic for discussion. And then we will talk about the defense minister's justification for the renting of a top-of-the-line private jet for the president to travel in. Well, he's have to eat back a few of the words he said on the floor in Parliament. He wasn't happy that the media focused on one particular issue. We'll talk about that, and then we'll end with the issue surrounding our attempt to procure the Sputnik V vaccine. That is how we'll end it. This morning I'm joined by Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., who we are always grateful for his time, who is the managing editor of the Inside newspaper. Gabriela Tete joins us today. It's always wonderful to see her. And then we are joined by Honorable Adumako Kisi, who is Member of Parliament for Anya Sowutum, joining us on the show this morning. We are expecting to be joined by Honorable Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa, who is Member of Parliament for North Tongue. Ironically, the person who raised that issue over the jet that's creating a lot of controversy. And so we'll spend some time talking about that issue too. But thank you very much for making time. It's always a pleasure having you. Don't forget, if you're on Facebook, you can get to share your thoughts with us on Pan-African Television if you're watching through that channel. And also we are live on YouTube. Well, we'll start off the discussion by talking about the issues of insecurity in Ghana. And I haven't seen Gabriela Tete in a long while. So I would like to hear a voice first.
Good morning, Sena. Let me say good morning to my co-panelists, and a special good morning to the good people of Ghana who are listening across the globe on social media, on traditional media, including radio as well. And a special good morning also going to the good people of the Central region. That's my home region. Sana, this past week has not been a very good week in terms of the news that has been coming out from the security front. We've had burglaries We've had killings, shootings, and we've also had threats of terrorism. And for a country that is already dealing with the repercussions of a pandemic and the challenges and the hardships that ordinary people are going through and the pressure under which a lot of people are, I think that to come and add issues of insecurity as well is only going to heighten the anxiety and apprehensions of the people. Let's take the cases from Ashanti region, where the reports that mobile money shops were raided by armed men on motorbikes. Thankfully, the owners of those mobile money booths had CCTV cameras installed, so the police managed to get some identification. They've done some arrests, and they are still looking for more of the culprits. We've had the issue of another burglary, which happened right here in Accra, right in front of the police headquarters, where again, young men and a woman on motorbikes walked into a forex bureau and then just raided and rode off. And by the time onlookers figured out what was happening and attempted a chase, the robbers had already fled on those bikes. And then we had a third issue, which is the most tragic of all, considering the circumstances of that horrific incident, where a young police officer, barely a year out of training college, police training school, was shot in the head. A lady who was selling her wares also shot in the process. And from what I gather, the driver also shot. I heard the other lady who was with them needs psychological help because the state in which she is in, she's still dealing with the trauma and the shock of the experience. It's sad. It's sad news. And I think that as a country, first of all, there is something that is creeping into our society which I find disturbing. And that, first of all, is our attitude as people when anybody comes under attack. When you look at the surveillance from the Forex Bureau CCTV, the response by even onlookers after the incident, you could see that there was no way they were going to catch up with these boys on their bikes. Because we see things happening, and the first thing we do is to either stand there and watch, like we're watching the scenes in a movie being acted out in front of us, or the other thing we do is that we flee. When perhaps with numbers, you could even overcome the people who have ventured into your community to raid. The case of this Jamestown shooting, for example, from what I gather about the place, this particular location, it's not a place you can easily go and rob and walk away free. But sadly, on this particular day, they killed, they robbed, and they fled. I've heard the police are looking for, are seeking permission from someone whose CCTV camera they believed must have picked up the action. If the person is listening to us, I beg the person to kindly release the footage so that the police can investigate and apprehend the culprits. My other issue also is the Ghana Police Service. I know that they are doing their best, but there's been calls for the IGP to resign. following his comments after the Jamestown issue. I have been one of the people who is not excited about the renewal of contracts of people above the age of 60. It doesn't matter whether they are the IGP or they are heading a public institution. Because I think that our system needs constant re-injection of fresh blood and ideas. Society is evolving, and it's evolving very, very fast. And sometimes when you see the thinking and the way of behavior, and sometimes even the kind of oratory that comes from some of these people in top positions, I mean, clearly they have to step aside because they've outdone themselves. They've run out of ideas, and it's time for them to go and rest. I think the challenge with the police service, that is one of the issues. There are old commanders above 60 that have been given contract extensions. Perhaps it's time to reconsider that decision and re-inject a new crop of leadership that inspires action and inspires hope into the citizenry, that also inspires commitment from both security forces and the people, because security is a shared responsibility. I also want to appeal again to the good people of Ghana to also offer the police with information in your communities where you suspect or you know that there are criminal elements planning all kinds of attacks in these communities. I don't believe that a group of people will sit by themselves and scheme the kind of brazen activities that we've seen this past week, and then it's like it was done in isolation and nobody knew of some of these things. So I think that if you know of any such activities and it's against your will as a person, feel confident and give that information to the police to keep all of us safe. I also want to raise the issue of resources for the Ghana Police Service. In my community, the Ghana Police Service in my community are very active people. Every morning, because of the issue of motorbikes, every morning from 8 o'clock, there about 9 o'clock, till sometimes as late as 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, any motor rider riding into our community is stopped, searched, queried. What are you going to do in Adenta? Whether you are a dispatch rider, you are a casual rider, you are an Okada rider, whatever rider you are stopped. And I believe that is a team that they call the Rover team, the police forces that are also using the motorbikes to also solve this issue. So looking at how these past activities have been and the use of motorbikes, that's why I specifically made mention of my community, that I know that the police force in my community are doing something about people using motorbikes. If we generalize and make it as if everybody using the motorbike is a criminal, will be causing a disincentive to a lot of people, because there are some people who use motorbikes for their everyday economic activity, whether as dispatch riders, as Okada riders. But it's also fact that that is what these criminal elements are currently using to perpetrate their crime. We should equip the Ghana Police Service with more of these motorbikes, perhaps much faster motorbikes than these Chinese assembled ones that everybody is using. They will give them much more solid, stronger, faster bikes and have a force that also goes out pursuing these people. The issue of CCTV cameras are in Accra. I want to believe that they are working. because they are everywhere, and it will be surprising if after investing millions and installing all these cameras across the region, they are not functioning. I think that the police service, and since that is in the ambit of the national security, that they make an effort to track the recordings and see if they can find any group of people. I'm sure there's intelligence people, so I'm sure they are working on it. Find some trail of riders who were in that area at the time, and how to get the culprits in this instance. Then on the Ghana Bankers Association, the Bank of Ghana, and the other companies that use these vehicles to collect money, because not just the banks that are using these vans now. Betting companies are using them to collect their revenues. There are other companies, industries, manufacturing, retail, that are also using the same vans to go from one shop to the next to collect their sales. I think that whoever is responsible, that's why I give the full spectrum, Bankers Association, Bank of Ghana, and the retail companies, that they revise their notes on the use of these vans to collect their revenues, because now we have seen that they are not as safe-proof as we thought they would be. And I mean, really, if you do the simulation, there's no way that a police officer carrying an AK-47 cramped in the front of that vehicle can protect himself or anybody in that van if they come under attack from behind. At best, when they have been confronted from the front. But if they are attacked from behind, it is just impossible. Nobody will survive it. So I was also surprised that this particular Jamestown incident happened the way it did. A taxi stopped in front and they came from behind. We need to revise our notes on security, on how we carry money around. And just after the Jamestown incident, there was this other issue, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, where another van also came under attack. Thankfully, they had sought security protection from, I won't mention the name of the bank they took the money from, but they had sought police protection, informing the police that they were going to move money from a bank in Odoko to somewhere in the central region. So there was a police patrol following them. Even with that, interestingly, armed robbers managed to trail that particular van and attempted to also stop it and shoot. In actual fact, they shot at the front window where the police is supposed to be sitting. So the whole issue of moving money around the country is something that we need to look at again. It's not just about these vehicles, it's about the whole operations of moving money across the country. And then on the issue of terrorism, lastly on the issue of terrorism and the threat of terrorism. First of all, let me say that I was disappointed that a police signal was leaked into the public domain. That is one thing, to release information for everybody to be aware that there's a possibility of a threat, so we should all be cautious. And then there's another thing for an official police document to also find its way from one divisional commander, sorry, from a national headquarters to a divisional commander, finding its way also into public domain. I think that generally we should be protective of official documents and stop this habit of leaking official information. It should be on a as it should be known basis. You see, the reason why terrorism is thriving in our sub-region, and is also adding to the growing insecurity in the sub-region, is because of the high unemployment of our youth. As much as we are making an effort in all kinds of programs, NABCO, planting for food and jobs, there are a lot of people who are not interested in any of these jobs. And there are some people who are interested in IT. And there are others who are interested in retail and business. And sometimes some of these programs that we design to address these challenges is not all encompassing. So the interest in these programs is just not there. And if we don't find ways of getting young people active, we are going to offer them for other people to indoctrinate them, turn them around, and use them for all kinds of activities. Lastly, Sena, and I've mentioned this earlier, but my general appeal to all of us as Ghanaians is to be each other's keeper from henceforth, because the growing disenchantment and our nonchalant attitude when we see our fellow man in trouble these days is very worrying. And if we encourage it, a time will come, you the person who is refusing to help somebody, you will need help, and somebody will also refuse to help you. So
thank you very much. And of course, it's not only the IGP that has come under some scrutiny. A few days ago, the interior minister also made about 2 days ago, was also talking about Ghana situation. It's not the West. It's not the West. So that let me move to Honorable Adomako Kisi for his thoughts on the security situation.
Well, thank you, Sena, and I'm happy to be here after a long absence from this wonderful show. I think you do Ghana a great service in terms of giving varied opinions about issues affecting all of us. There's never enough security anywhere in the world. I don't think you can ever say, if you are, in the security domain, that this one day there was enough security. I don't think there's never that. Or can we ever say there's over security? It's not possible. I'm always reminded of this door maker scenario, almost like the chicken before the egg or egg before the chicken, in the sense that we will seem to always be behind security in terms of people who plan to commit high crimes, or shall I say devastating things in the country. One thing is certain: we need more. We need to do more. That is for sure. And I'll use this medium to beg. Maybe we need to think about our entire nation's approach to men in uniform or women in uniform, in the sense that I've always admired Israel, where every youth is enrolled in military training as like a national service thing, so that everybody almost in the country is very security conscious. I think they do it for about 2 years, and then you either stay on or find another job at some point in time. So every Israeli, I don't know if it's because of the Palestinian thing, but every Israeli, one, knows how to fire an arm and is quite skilled in terms of being conscious about protecting life and property. And I think as Ghanaians, maybe as we move along, we need to think more carefully about that. Now, one thing is also clear. Our president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is the commander-in-chief, which means that the buck stops at his doorstep in terms of any insurgents or any insecurity in this country. And I think that from all indications, he's proven that he's very particularly looking out for the average Ghanaian, or shall I say the ordinary Ghanaian. And out of that has been born the term fellow Ghanaians. Because in the past few years, the most critical thing that has hit us in this country was more of a biological weapon, shall I say, in terms of this microbe, which is the COVID-19, which has been very devastating in many parts of the world. And in fact, the U.S. military says that it's taken more lives than all the major wars they've had in their country, which pushes me even to that other topic, whereby insecurity has to be also looked at in the future in terms of how we prevent or manage future pandemics or even future disasters like a major earthquake or any of those kinds of things, which still fall under the umbrella of national security. Being a medical doctor, I'll also use this opportunity to say that our military now is now inseparable from healthcare, in the sense that everybody now has seen that no amount of ammunition could have fought COVID-19, which was a very tiny organism, if you understand what I'm saying. And in that sense, the budget for our healthcare has to be increased in terms of our research angle, in terms of our disease management, in terms of our prevention, so that should in case, and I'm not wishing ill on our country, but should in case we are hit with another daughter or auntie or cousin of coronavirus, that will be much well prepared. And as my senior MP is here, I will give him that privilege in the sense that Corona didn't know NDC, Corona didn't know MPP. Corona hit all of us, and painful loss, and we have people on this panel who lost direct family members as a result of this virus. So security is broad, and it's changed, and it's changing day in and day out, and I really think that our consciousness should go back to, for instance, 9/11. Okay, 9/11 changed America in the sense that they always thought that the airplanes, those who have hijacked, will be making demands and they'll go and land somewhere and ask for either money or release of some prisoners, only to be aware that this time it's what changed. They just went straight into buildings and did what they did. Coming home to our mother Ghana, and this week, one thing that is very clear for me, right off the bat, is that our money movement vehicles has to change, and whether it will be spearheaded by entrepreneurs in this country or our security, apparatus in the country, what is very clear is that those vehicles have to change, and it has to be through a deliberate effort, either just like the Securities and Exchange, made requirements for companies in terms of how much they need for funding. That kind of, state legislature maybe has to be done so that it becomes a requirement that if a vehicle, be it a banking vehicle or any private program, because we all do fundraising at some point, and if you're doing a fundraising program and you're carrying X amount of money, that money has to be moved by a certain type of vehicle. And I think that the onus is on us as legislative members to start working on that so that it becomes a requirement that armored vehicles, not just big vehicles, but armored vehicles carry the money. And if I can add, those, in fact, in other jurisdictions, it's just a driver in the armored car, and he's suited up with his, weapon, and he would walk into a shop, take their day's sales, go and put it in the vehicle, and then go and make the deposit. So that has to change. That's the first thing that I really am very passionate about. That as a nation, within the next foreseeable few days, that requirement has to come. And if you cannot, then you don't move any money. And I really also think that I'll use this medium to beg Ghanaians. We need to gradually move away from the cash industry and do more e-money. And what I mean by e-money is, mobile phone. These days, even our most elderly women, I'll use my mother and my dad, who's 80 plus, they fancy doing mobile money, and it's working. So I really think that as a nation, if our market women are doing more transactions which are cashless, if businesses are pushing for cashless transactions, then the volume of cash, hard currency that will be moved will be reduced, and that is also one approach that can help, so that our banking becomes almost faceless. I mean, what I mean is you don't have to walk into a bank and move about 100,000 and be shot on the road. I mean, these are things that as individuals we should be thinking about. Now, kudos, and my heart goes out to the police service or any of the security services we have. I think they are underfunded, and that one, it's happened in all times. I mean, he has to admit, and the NDC times they were underfunded, and the MPP times they were underfunded, and I really think that our defense budget is miniature. It's too small, considering what we need as a country, where people are also even involved in cyber crimes. And let me tell you, when it comes to cyber crimes, as a nation, we're so behind. In terms of having a police or security force which handles, cyber-related crimes. So these are a myriad of things that I really think that, from a security standpoint, our resources are not matching strategies needed. Our resources are not matching the personnel numbers needed, in terms of, for instance, I mean, I have a whole electoral area without a police post, and the next police post is so far. You understand? So that if there should be an issue, the response time of any person with either a police patrol or whatever, by the time they come, would have been Christmas already, if you understand what I'm saying. So I take a cue from almost like Germany. Within a short block, you have police right there, to the extent that once you enter an electoral area, or you go and register with the police, they know you are in. It's phenomenal, and I really think that these are all things that we are lacking as a country. But as Ghanaian as we are, I know our police force is working, actively with the little they have, but it is not good enough. It is not good enough. How many policemen have been shot because they didn't have bulletproof vests on? How many policemen have also been shot because they didn't have the right intel? And intel is everything. I mean, in this business, as they say, more brains than browns. When you're really doing intelligence service, which is part of security. Now, coming back to the other key thing, insecurity is not a political party's time to, let's say, be bravado or try and say, hey, we are providing the best security. I mean, I really think it shouldn't be any government stunt. We shouldn't politicize insecurity. It's important that we acknowledge and be as real as it is. And I mean, I'm not on the national security, or defense committee or anything, but I really think that when we get to security matters, we should not know, quote unquote, NDC or MPP, because in the middle of the night, when your cousin is shot, it does not matter if I'm MPP or NDC. If a policeman is shot and he can't support all the dependents he has, and he's 6 feet under, it is not about NDC, MPP, but rather as a nation, we have to collaborate and help fight this, let me say, new or pervading problem. And as a matter of business as well, investments into our country depends on the narrative we give to insecurity. And that is the only part that I'll plead with my friends on the other side, as in the NDC, that, you know, sometimes we are our own enemies in the sense that we shoot ourselves down and kill off investments we would have had as a country, because we cry wolf too many times at times when there's no wolf. And in that sense, it affects business. Because if I'm a businessman in Japan and I want to come to Ghana, and we have legislators and, you know, executives or former ministers of state crying, you know, like, hey, hell is breaking loose here, it scares off investors, and it affects all of us, because when people come and invest, job growth also is affected or improved if security is good. So I'll plead with all and sundry that when we do talk about security, let's be truthful about the facts. I think in the previous regime, you know, some chiefs were killed in the NDC term. In the MPP times too, I think, at least I know of about 2 chiefs that their lives have been taken. You know, and I won't go into legislative, because I think we lost also some MPs in another government. I'm hoping we don't lose any in this, you know, but I'm just saying that these issues have affected all parties, all governments, and when we approach it, we should go at it in that fashion, so that Ghana gets better. There's been calls for the IGP being changed because of, let me say, a one sentence that he made, that we need to be mindful of the fact that probably, and now let me just say probably, it's only in heaven that everybody will be singing hallelujah to the Almighty God. So there would not be any crime. But I need to add this word of caution that even at church we lock up our bags. Even at church we lock up our cars, because I've seen videos of what do you call it, the offertory, or what do you call that? The offertory, people making profit from inside, and to the extent that is at the chapel. So there might be some rogue elements in heaven. It's possible, but that's a different discussion. So I really think that he's a very fine man and very capable, very qualified. Unfortunately, I think sometimes, in all fairness or in all honesty, when you get frustrated, when you've lost a serviceman, you may, out of frustration, make some comments. And I'm sure, I don't know, you know, if he's taking back his comment, but he meant to say that when we are in a real world where, you know, things like this will happen, except for maybe in a movie like Minority Report, where they are able to determine a crime will be happening 2 days late, I mean like 2 days forward, and then try and go and stop it. But we're not in that kind of artificial intelligence world where we can do these things and see so far apart. So I think that his entire character as an IGP, his entire knowledge and experience cannot be put, you know, just on the line because of a one sentence. You know, that's just my thinking. So I really would plead, sustaining what he's doing is also very important from a security standpoint. Anytime you just change IGPs like that, then it means that even your criminals can be a huge factor, as in any slightest mishap, then we are calling to change our IGP. And you can't change your IGPs just on a whim because of such incidents. Then we'll be having how many IGPs in Ghana? I mean, within the space of 4 years, these crimes might happen, let me say, even 10 times. And that means you're saying that every incident like that, we're not even asking for a commander change, but the IGP change. So I really think that we need to be mindful of that in terms of our request or trying to push that agenda. So in a nutshell, one, we need more resources for advanced technology to help with our insecurities in this country. And she made mention of a mobile money center. For the past 2 months, I've been gringing in the sense that the mobile money centers are now banks. I mean, seriously. And they need, I really think that we need to make demands on MTN, to also pay heavily for national security. I really think so. And mobile money vendors, we should even have an appropriate, infrastructure that they use to do these businesses. To be licensed as a mobile money vendor, the location, the siting, all of that has to be regulated so that you may have 6 vendors in a jurisdiction, but well protected, and that protection should be manned and paid for by the profiteer, which is the mobile money company, be it Vodafone, MTN, whatever the mobile network is, because people are moving a lot of money through mobile money vendors, and it's about time. If you go to a cash advance joint, a cash advance place in the US, if you see the kind of glasses they use that are bulletproof glasses, you'd be amazed, and cameras and security, which is on standby, looking at their activities, and if you make an attempt before you come out, the door is even locked. You are stuck in. These are all things that we need to look at as a nation, and I really think that is another avenue that government has to be very firm in making demands to the mobile money companies that they now pay for very good security for their vendors, and then limit the vending joints. It's very important. And even the time of opening and closure. I've witnessed one around 6:30 p.m. where people made, they fired shots to steal money and run off, and I really think that we need to look at that. The time they open, the time they close, the pickup, if it's going to be picked up by, an armored vehicle, if the place is a very hot spot. These are all things that I think that we need to look at. And it's not just a governmental thing. The private sector also has a role. And invariably, who knows, 10 years down the line, I may have to be running a personal security, because elsewhere, gated communities on their own have their solid security. If you need to enter a Denta, for instance, they might have their own very government-recognized security apparatus helping. I think Nigeria does that a lot. We don't want that in Ghana. In terms of insecurity, to the extent that they have to do that. But I really think that there's a private element that can help with all these things. I think there are few security companies in the country that are helping, but we need to look also so that entrepreneurs, once again, businessmen, when there's insecurity, they can also make quote unquote even profits from selling home alarms systems and all of these other things that add to our security as a nation. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll come in later on when others have talked.
Thank you very much, Doc. Let me do a couple of your messages before I come to Nombo Blakwa. Posting change in Medina says when it was the fight against corruption, Akufo-Addo said Domelevu, who was just 60 years, was too old, so he should go on compulsory retirement. But when it is about security, Akufo-Addo thinks unproductive thing. He said, Upon Bueno, who is 63 years, is fit for the job. because it prevents Ghanaians from telling him to fix the country. Okay, so with the DJ says, living in police barracks should be abolished. It's a colonial idea. The police should be living amongst the citizens to deter petty crimes in the areas they live in. It will also help to gather information, as they will know who does what in their area. So he started a hashtag, shut down police barracks. He says, Eram Dolafia says, the insecurity in Ghana is becoming too much. Hashtag fix the country. Agogajon says, this goes to, okay, I think Doc, please, when Akufo-Addo came in as president in 2017, this is what he said. He didn't trust the police, and what has he done about it? Dennis Yakwete says, 2 days ago, I tried to find out via the internet the cost of bulletproof vests and found out that a unit cost ranges between $25 to $240. It is therefore sad that after 64 years of independence, we cannot boast of adequate bulletproof vests for our police at these relative prices. And yet our politicians, across political divide, especially the NPP and the NDC, that so far had the opportunity to govern the Fourth Republic and continue to indulge in needless expenditures, when the very people who had made it possible for them to occupy a position of trust are helpless. Indeed, $15,000 could have procured 75 bulletproof vests at a cost of $200 per unit, and each district should be able to do so for its local police. Just too bad. Shalom. Also, Mohammed Note says, I am maniacally bewildered when I heard the IGP saying that there's crime everywhere except in heaven. Has he been able to has he been to heaven before to tell us that? I'm sorry, this man doesn't deserve to be imposed by now. May Allah save our country. He's watching us live from Dubai. Niaya is joining us from the UK. So this man has been a security threat even opposition. Now that he's been selected to lead the country, he's become a bigger security threat to the country. He has politicized the entire security system, hence the results we are seeing. Then Hamza okay, he's watching us from Nkwanto region. He said his name is Masaud Hamza Jr. Says, in fact, the level at which the insecurity is taking over our country for the past 5 years is sickening. Thank you very much for those. Keep them coming. Keep those comments coming. Let me also say you that a big thank you to Benya and Cape FM. They are in the central region. They are taking us live. Honorable.
Thank you very much, Sena. Good morning to you, to the panel, and to all our viewers and listeners across the globe. It's good to be back to ALHAJI and ALHAJI after I took a break from media engagements generally. And let me commend you for the first topic, insecurity. Very timely, very crucial. Indeed, as we speak, heads of states have arrived in Ghana under the banner of ECOWAS to hold the 59th ordinary session of the authority of heads of states and governments of ECOWAS here in Accra today. And key amongst the issues the heads of state will be considering today in Accra is general insecurity, the rise in violent extremism, terrorism that has engulfed the sub-region. So heads of states are worried. West African leaders are deeply worried about the situation and have found it expedient to meet to discuss insecurity in the sub-region. That is the topmost item on the agenda. Indeed, a lot of the heads of states arrived yesterday. As ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've been monitoring closely. There are some 15 African presidents who have confirmed their participation. Only Mali is exempted from this 59th ordinary session. You do know that at the last summit, Mali was suspended because of the coup in that country. So it tells you how serious the matter is. to have heads of states travel from their countries to come and discuss the growing levels of insecurity in the sub-region. It tells you that all of us must take a serious view of where we find ourselves as a sub-region. If you have been following the trends, northern Nigeria is gone. The tourists are in total control of northern Nigeria. They have taken over Burkina Faso. Indeed, the last security report I read, at least 80% of land coverage in Burkina Faso is gone, is under total terrorist control. The entire Sahel region has become what security analysts are describing the new haven for violent extremism. And what has emerged is that these terrorists, having taken control of the Sahel, are all moving southwards. And they are looking for new territories to control. If you take a critical look at the attack in Burkina Faso 2 weeks ago, there were terrorists who had moved down south, taking over Burkina Faso, and are looking for new regions. So, the village they attacked, that village is endowed with gold. And it is clear that taking over those gold mines was to raise revenue to carry out more operations. Now, if you are in Ghana and you have a situation where all your neighbors, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, is fighting violent extremism on a scale they have never seen before. Nigeria, Togo, you do know that Togo has, for at least the past 3 decades, had a very, very, very fragile security situation. But the political violence has metamorphosed now into more complex insecurity, where you have a mix of not only the political instability, but you are seeing that the violent extremism which is taking over the sub-region has found expression in Togo as well. So none of our neighbors has been spared. None of our neighbors has been spared. Now, if you talk to a lot of the analysts and security experts, they will tell you that they believe that there has already been some infiltration into Ghana. There's a place called Dollar Power, which is in the Tyne district. They are watching that space very, very closely. The security confidential report that leaked to the general public, which has created so much panic, particularly in Upper East, in the northern region, Tamale, didn't come to a lot of us as a surprise, because we have known for some time now that the intelligence is that there has been some infiltration. And our borders remain very, very porous. And we have not been able to really protect our territorial integrity when it comes to protecting Ghana from this uptick in violent extremism all around us. So we must see the growing insecurity situation as not only a domestic threat born out of domestic causes or challenges, but there is also the international dimension, which is all the way from terrorism, which the West fought strongly but did not really succeed. The methodology was wrong, using just violence instead of a more nuanced political solution. So you saw them driving out these terrorists from places like Afghanistan, Syria. They have not really finished, Iraq and what have you. And a new haven has emerged in Africa after that senseless overthrow of Gaddafi. You must do the tracking from all of this. And you notice that since Gaddafi was overthrown mindlessly, the whole African region has been thrown into a state of anarchy. And so we have a really big challenge that we are confronting. What is even making matters worse is that you have an African Union that declared 2020 as the year of silencing the guns. This target was set sometime in 2012. The target has been missed. If you read all the security reports, the guns got louder. We missed the target of silencing the guns in 2020. There are now at least 61,000 trouble spots in Africa. What this has led to is that you now have a proliferation of arms flying all over the place. It's so easy for people to lay hands on weapons. So you cannot discuss the security situation in any country in Africa now in isolation without placing it within the context of Africa and West Africa. Because you have all this proliferation of small arms, you have all these young people who have been, as it were, radicalized. They've been brainwashed. There are all kinds of secret training camps all over the place, dotted in places very close to our country. And this uptick, this insurgency that we are seeing, is all related to that. Not too long ago, we all read reports about some students at KNUST who were recruited, who were radicalized, and found themselves in Syria. Not too long ago, the authorities in Libya made an open presentation of people they had arrested who they consider as terrorists. And there were young Ghanaians in that list of active terrorists. And it tells you that as we speak, these terrorist organizations, be they Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, be they ISIS, be they Boko Haram, they are alive. The terrorists are all over the place. They are recruiting. They are weaponizing the youth. And they are taking over jurisdictions. What has even made matters worse is that the Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's blueprint for security on the continent, the Africa Standby Force, has eluded us. What we have is some very weak structure where every now and then heads of states are called, oh, Ghana, please donate some troops, Nigeria, donate some troops, South Africa, can you send a few, Ethiopia. So you've seen how weak our governments have been because we didn't follow Kwame Nkrumah's blueprint. So in addressing the terrorist situation, and violent extremism, you have seen that it is the French and the Americans who actually have had more troops at a point in Mali and in the Sahel region generally. We have had to depend on foreign troops who don't really understand our terrain, who do not appreciate our context. They have been the ones at the forefront. And you have seen the Malians and the Americans threatening withdrawal of troops. Indeed, some of them have started withdrawing troops from Mali. So, I'm laying this preamble to make the point that it's a hydra-headed challenge. And that if we think that this is just a matter of just Ghana alone, and it's just a few hungry young men who are not trained, who are not sophisticated, who don't have access to weapons, and I mean complex weapons for that matter. I heard a number of security analysts actually say publicly last week that Ghana should even expect that very soon explosives will be used in some of these criminal operations, because already weapons that are being used to gun down our police officers are not your everyday normal guns that hunters use to go into the farms or the forests. I mean, to gun down animals. So we need to recognize that we are dealing with a very, very, very dangerous situation, a very precarious situation. That is why yesterday in Parliament, I made a special request on the Right Honourable Speaker that in the coming days, the National Security Minister, the Minister for the Interior, and the Minister responsible for Defence should be summoned to Parliament to give us a detailed briefing on the security situation. We should no longer be papering over and be pretending. I do know that, yes, at the Committee of Defence and Interior, and when we have met them at the level of leadership, they are more frank and open about these matters. And I am conscious of the fact that when it comes to security situations, there are the need to know and all of that. But there is also the aspect of managing a country and general citizen awareness that requires that you must be honest with the people and let the people appreciate that, look, where we have reached, and every country does that, that look, where we have reached, we have insurgencies, we have violent extremism all around us. This is a time for you to be extra cautious. And these are the measures that you as citizens must take. We as government, as political leaders, this is what we are doing to address the challenge. We haven't seen that. The Commander-in-Chief has not addressed this country on the current security situation. I am hoping that after this ECOWAS meeting, at least at the level of the heads of states, they have seen that they can no longer pretend that all is well. They are meeting now to look at this threat. I hope that after, in Ghana, the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, the Chairman of the National Security Council in Ghana, will address this country on the current state of insecurity and the threat of violent extremism. If you read that internal police memo that leaked, it is clear that intelligence is pointing to bandits. They use bandits. They are just euphemisms for terrorists, for violent extremists. They are all the same people, say modus operandi, who have infiltrated That's clearly what it is. Now let's come to matters related to the interior. Sena, only last month, the minister responsible for the interior, the Honorable Ambrose Derry, addressed the 2021 National Police Command Conference, which was organized under the theme, the role of leadership in the prevention of violent crimes and promoting community safety. The minister's own statistics that he put out indicates that murder is on the rise in Ghana. The minister said that for the first quarter of 2021, this year, murder has increased from 123 first quarter of last year to 144, an increase of 17% this year. This is not the NDC creating a storm in the teacup.
I wasn't going to say it.
Or
I just
yeah.
Sorry to come in.
Yeah.
With population increase, there's always a level of increment. No, like I said, no, I'm just talking from a numbers standpoint. That if your township, okay. So I'll come back.
You see, the nature of this program is different. So if you
like I said,
you allow my flow, but since you raise it, let me just quickly address it. Ghana's population scientifically increases by 2% every year. That is by the Ghana Statistical Service. That's the record. That's what we have in Parliament. On the average, 2% every year. Alright? That is it.
Post-COVID with a lot of
so 2%. It's not been 9 months yet. The babies haven't been born yet. So it's 2%. Now, if you even take that 2% population increase out of 17% increase in murder,
it's a concern.
That gives you 50. So it's a concern. And every country, the national security architecture, the whole apparatus, they work to bring down crime. Whether population is going up by 5% or 10% or what, they work. All of us, our aim, our objective, and we in the minority, we are willing to support you to make sure that the numbers come down, regardless of population increases. So I beg you, population increase cannot be the reason for this. Now, if you look at the other statistics that the Honorable Minister provided at this 2021 National Police Command Conference, you get even more worried. You know why? If you look at violent robberies for the first quarter of this year, 2021, we've had as many as 495 cases. Now, the minister says that this 495 cases is a decline from 525 cases compared to the same period last year. But you know what this is pointing to? And the minister admitted this, that the armed robbers are getting more deadly. So if you are having quite some reduction in the number of armed robberies, however, your fatalities are increasing, it means the armed robbers are becoming so brazen. They are getting deadlier. There is no respect for human life. And if you see some of the cases that have happened in recent days, I mean, the one near the police headquarters, the robbery at the Forest Bureau. Police headquarters in front of the police headquarters. I mean, can you imagine? The bravado. And it's broad daylight. Broad daylight. Look at this Jamestown Bullion Van 1. I'm told happened is more closer to the timber market. Broad daylight. Look, it was a beehive of activity, hawkers, traders, taxi drivers, trotro drivers, and yet they couldn't care less and managed to conclude their operation. The other one, which has been reported in Winneba. So you are seeing organized crime. This is not just isolated robbery. It's organized crime. And all the security analysts admit that. The Minister for the Interior, still at that conference, complained about rape on the increase and kidnappings. As many as 26 kidnappings have happened in the first quarter of this year alone. Only God knows. Only God knows where the numbers are for this second quarter. We are in June now. I tried to get the current statistics, and it's one of the challenges we have in our country as I was preparing for this program. And all I could get was these statistics provided by a minister for the first quarter. They say that they are not ready yet with the latest statistics. And all the crimes that we've been complaining about in recent times, remember, is out of this first quarter statistics. And yet look at how frightening these first quarter statistics are. By all indications, the second quarter statistics will be worse than the first quarter. And these kidnappings, as he has rightly pointed out, have led to deaths. So we really have a crisis on our hands. And you see, security is at the basis of everything. If this country, God forbid, but we slide into a state of full insecurity and there's instability, everything we have worked for, our democracy is gone. Who is going to go to parliament? Which minister will go to the ministries to run affairs? Which judge will go and sit to listen to your case and adjudicate justice? Who is going to send the child to school? Which doctor will go to the hospital to work? Which investor will come to Ghana? Which business will be open? Pan-African TV, maybe unless we do Zoom, all of us from our hideouts, you know. Nothing will work. So it's a very serious matter we are discussing. It's a very, very serious matter. A lot of the accolades we have had, the international conferences happening here, the international businesses who are relocating here, whether it's Twitter for Africa, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, all of them, when they put out their statements, they talk about our stability, our relatively better stability compared with other countries in the sub-region. So, we are dealing with a matter that we should not downplay at all. Then I come to the response by government. I have to be very honest with you that I am not the least impressed with how this government has confronted the insecurity challenge. Anytime there is an incident, anytime there is an incident, you would hear top government officials make big promises. And there's one very high-ranking official who has become famous for these promises. He's no other person than His Excellency the Vice President and Chairman of the Police Council, You remember some years ago when a police station was attacked in the Domiko-Benya area, and the nation was shocked that what? How did this happen? Yeah, they were able to free suspects, overpower the police, right in their domain. The police station, there was national outrage. His Excellency the Vice President, ALHAJI Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, made a big promise. Ghanaians, don't worry, in a few weeks from now, every police station will be fitted with CCTV. Big promise. You know, a Vice President, he likes to talk big. Then don't worry, CCTV. We are still waiting. At least in my holy constituency of North Town, waiting for just one of the CCTV. And you will notice that all of this, you see snapshots on social media, Ghanaians are asking, where are the CCTVs? Then there was another incident where a police officer was shot. The Vice President attends the funeral and says, oh, don't worry, this was in 2019. We are going to provide bulletproof vests for all of you. Big promise. It's 2021, June. Not a single bulletproof vest has arrived. I am in Parliament. We haven't seen any contract. There's no agreement for the purchase of these bulletproof vests or the CCTV. Why is the chairman of the National Police Council just engaged in empty rhetoric? You see, you don't fight insecurity that way. Look, our men and women in uniform, they put themselves in harm's way. They risk their lives. It takes exceptional courage to enlist in these security agencies. Look at what they go through. You even forget those who are asked to go and foil robberies and violent crime, and take even just those on our streets who are to maintain sanity on our streets, who are at the checkpoints. See what they go through under the scorching sun. We go out and we are in a hurry to go back, run back to our offices, run back to our workplaces and have some air conditions, or run back into our comfortable air-conditioned cars. Has it occurred to us how many hours they stand there under the vagaries of the weather to protect us, to direct traffic? When it is raining, I don't know the last time I saw a police officer on patrol that is raining and they are even having raincoat. So we need to admit that when it comes to protecting our men and women in uniform, we have not done well. We have let them down. We have let them down. The government must stop the empty promises and just deliver. Just deliver. Just deliver. I mean, some years ago, I told myself that as MP in North Town, I won't make any promise to my people. I'll just deliver. If I have any project, any initiative I want to do, I'll just do it when it's time. We launch it, we execute it. And I found out that is even better. You get even more praise when you take the people by surprise pleasantly, and the communities are not expecting a particular intervention. It's better. Why can't our government cut down on the promises, on the empty rhetoric, and just do what you must do? Just do what you must do. And it's about national priorities. We will be getting into the jet matter. If you can find 15,000 pounds an hour, 2.8 billion Ghana cedis for just 23 hours. And we are told that, you know, people must bath in the skies and all of that. But we'll get there. I mean, it's all about national prioritization. Our men and women who protect us. And you see, now more than ever, that's why I laid the foundation I did. When you have all this violent extremism, you have all this terrorism all around. Other countries have been totally taken over. If there's any institution that should be receiving special attention, is the security services, the Ghana Police Council, the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Armed Forces, Navy, Air Force, Immigration, the Fire Service. The Fire Service has been complaining that since the era of Mills Mahama, they have not received even one new fire tender. Can you imagine? When was the last time Professor Mills left office? So what is going on? We must re-equip. We must invest in protecting our men and women in uniform. We cannot continue to just appear on the scene, talk big, make big promises, and then we just walk away. As soon as we leave that event, we throw the promise away. We forget what we have told them. This young police officer who has been shot and killed near Jamestown joined the service. He had great dreams. I'm sure he wanted to go all the way to the top. Every police officer dreams that they will get to the top. God willing, become IGP. His career has been cut short. And this is policy failure. Leadership let him down. And look at the things we are calling bullion vans. Those are no bullion vans. These rickety pickups that we find some welders at Kokompe and other places to just build over the buckets of the pickup. We call them bullion. These are no bullion vans. How on earth did we sit and allow this? It must be our collective shame. We must be embarrassed that we allow this. The IGP issued a statement that he's giving the banks by close of this month, June, if they don't acquire proper bullion vans, he will withdraw his men. That cannot be, you know, the solution. Because the security situation will get worse if these things we are calling bullion vans, these glorified rickety pickups, are on the move with money without police protection. Just imagine how many people will pounce on these rickety pickups, attack them, and see if they can get some free cash. So it just tells you all of this is symptomatic of the system not working. A country that needs fixing in many, many departments. And let's be honest about it. And there are some of the issues that are quite systemic, that have taken years. We must be honest to admit, even sometimes from the previous administration. We must sit up and agree to do things differently. Except that my brother will admit that those who are in power now and managing our resources now have a bigger responsibility.
Agree.
So we cannot accept this situation where rickety pickups are allowed. Who allowed them to operate in the first place? And the whole regime for even movement of money must change. In other jurisdictions, you don't see billion vans just all over the place during the day. You don't see that. The whole regime must change. And in these days of wireless transfers and a cashless economy and digitalization and all of that, these old archaic methods must give way. They must give way.
Okay.
Now, Sena, you have to allow me 2 minutes, please. It's very important. 2 minutes, I beg you.
2 minutes.
Yes, I beg you. I beg you, it's very important. Now I must deal with the IGP and the Minister for the Interior. Look, when things have happened like this, and it's really what has caused it, it's policy failure, it's poor leadership. You have lost your men. This is not how you talk. I know my respected colleague is trying to talk about trauma. Yeah, he's a medical doctor. Me, I didn't go to medical school. But if you feel you are traumatized and all that, as a leader, because in the first way, leaders, you must have a higher threshold. Leaders are not allowed just ordinary thresholds that if you are traumatized, please, just you keep quiet. We beg you. We beg you. You have lost one of your men, IGP. And you say, oh, we are not in heaven. It's only in heaven that there is no crime. I'm in the height of insensitivity. How do you think that the family of the police officer will feel? The hawker who was shot and killed. I saw her husband crying in public on television, weeping like a baby. Is that a kind of message? That's how soothing we can get? That's the best we can do for these people who are grieving? Then the Interior Minister, you two come and try and repair the damage the IGP has caused. Then you also come and make matters worse. That go to other countries and see, hey, is that what we are working towards? Working towards what? A Mali, or a Burkina Faso, or a Somalia? I am deeply disgusted. Absolutely outraged by these statements. And they must be condemned in no uncertain terms. Our leaders must learn how to speak. They must learn about crisis communication. When there is despair, people are grieving, there is crisis. That's not how you talk.
Okay, Honorable. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, let me do 2 messages before we go to Mr. Pratt. Olanyo Nakwekia is IGP on the top police hierarchies must seriously sit up. Uprising of armed robbery cases in Ghana. The blame should be laid before the doorsteps of Ghana police for treating them with kid gloves. This is not the first time armed robbers are attacking bullion van. Couldn't the authorities have found a more secure means of transporting money and to extricate the lives of the police officers? Idi Gideon says, and I salute you and the other panelists. As a Ghanaian, as I see, my heart is down for the youth as future leaders of Ghana. The youth of today must rise above the usual rhetoric of politicians bamboozling them into believing that they are putting good measures in place, but that's the opposite. As it stands today, the future doesn't look any good at all following our current trend with regards to the GDP ratio and the level of borrowing by our misleaders. I urge the young ones to study more about the history of Ghana in order to appreciate the fact and act of speaking up the truth. A change of doing things right must happen now and now. Mr. Pratt.
Well, first, it does seem to me that we spent so much time on the first topic that we are in danger of not finding sufficient time to discuss the second topics. And because of that, I'm going to cut my presentation, you understand. It was my favorite guitarist, Jimi Hendrix, who wrote and sang to the effect that castles built of sand eventually fall into the sea. What we're experiencing now with regards to the national security situation is simply the fact that we have built castles made of sand. And those castles are beginning to fall into the sea. The national security situation today cannot be defined simply by numbers. The number of rapes which have taken place, number of murders which have taken place, and so on. There is something behind the figures. And it is that something behind the figures that we need to find. If you look at some of the incidents, some of the happenings, which have raised alarm and made the Ghanaian population feel insecure, those incidents, those actions and so on, have been perpetrated by state security actors. That is where the problem is. You see, only recently, persons identified as national security personnel raided Kumasi, caused mayhem, attacked the regional security coordinator, and so on. Who were they? We were told that they are state security actors. One of the first cases of kidnapping that we had in this country, which occurred in Kumasi, we were told that it was perpetrated by vigilante elements. You understand? If you look at all the things that are happening in the area of Galamsey and so on, they are perpetrated, according to some senior state security actors, by people from the vigilante groups and so on. You understand? Robberies, talk about robberies. We've had cases in this country when persons assigned responsibility for protecting visiting head of states have committed robberies. That is my worry. That is my worry. You know, our current president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, told us in plain language that he had no confidence in the security services of this country. And he said he had no confidence in the security services of this country when he was in opposition because of the politicization of the security services. Does he now have confidence in the security services? And if he now has confidence in the security services, has the politicization ended? Have the security services been depoliticized? And if he has confidence in them, at a time that all of us know that the politicization of the security services has rather increased, what does that tell us about the security architecture that we have built in this country? Sena, when Ayawaso West Wogon happened, it raised alarm about the security of innocent citizens just wanting to exercise their franchise. The Short Committee report alarmed all of us about our safety and so on. What has happened to the Short Committee report? What has happened to that? We are living in a country where a prominent journalist, I'm not talking about journalists like me and so on, I'm talking about journalists who constantly make the headline, you know, who are active and so on. I'm on semi-retirement, you understand? A prominent journalist is shot dead. How many years on, we don't even know those who killed him. We have no idea who killed him. This is all adding up to the insecurity. Now, what is interesting is that this prominent journalist was investigating corruption. Investigating corruption, which went quite close to persons in authority. We've come to the point where citizens of this country voluntarily go into exile. They run into exile because they fear for their lives. And who are these citizens who today feel so threatened that they run into exile? One of them is Manasseh Azuri. What did he do which led to a situation where he felt so insecure that he had to run into exile? Why? Senior police officers, experienced police officers have told us in the face that, look, the architecture we are operating today does not make them neutral. They can't be neutral. And that the police service as an institution, and indeed to some extent the security services, are politically partisan because of the contents of our constitution and how appointments have been effected in the security services. One of those persons was Commissioner of Police Kofi Boakye. Clear language. One of those who opened our eyes to the fact that the current architecture does not promote a professional and independent police service is currently on trial for subversion. These are facts that all of us know. These are not new, you understand? So the problem is not the fact that armed robberies are occurring. The problem is not the fact that state actors are intimidating us, they are frightening us, they are killing and maiming. That is not the point. The point is that the very architecture for our protection has become so politically partisan that it is not reliable. Look, in this situation, armed robberies, kidnappings, and all of that. What is our police services and other security services, what are they concentrating on? Their concentration is on preventing demonstrations by citizens who want to raise their voices about the current economic conditions in the country. Look at how much energy and time they are spending on press releases justifying the fact that we cannot have demonstrations. Look at the time that they are spending in the courts preventing the Fix the Country people from demonstrating and so on. That is their priority. That is their priority. And that's a huge statement about the political commitments of our security services. They are more interested in partisan politics than they are in preventing armed robberies, serious crime. Look, today, make some kind of statements about government and people in government, and you will see the speed with which you'll be arrested, interrogated at CID headquarters, and marched to court. They are very fast when it comes to those things, extremely fast. When it comes to the murder of Ahmed Swari, we don't see the same speed. You saw the speed with which they arrested Kupu Ayubo for making a statement. You saw the speed with which they acted in grabbing and putting the national chairman of the leading opposition party before court. You see how fast they act when it comes to politics. They don't act that fast when it comes to dealing with crime. And that's a huge statement. We need immediately to take action to build a security architecture that is not built with sand, but is built, if you like, with concrete, fiberglass, wood, or something else. Because as long as we keep building a security architecture with sand, as Jimi Hendrix says, it would eventually fall into the sea. You understand? Now, this week, this country was blessed with the leakage of a wireless message from the Inspector General of Police. My sister here says that we should not be leaking documents and so on. I totally disagree with her. And of course, she understands why I disagree with her. Because how then would we know the state of hopelessness in which we are and do something about it? It is not the duty of journalists to be protecting state secrets. It is not the duty of members of parliament to be protecting these things and so on. That is the duty of the security services, not us. You see, our responsibilities and jobs conflict. Ours is to find those secrets and leak them. Theirs is to protect them. We are in competition with them. And because of their sloppiness, we always win over them. What is contained in that wireless message is information that the public should know. And it's information which is disturbing. Look, what is contained in that message is that we know that terrorists operating in Burkina Faso, and a week ago, they killed more than 160 people in Burkina Faso, leading to an escape of multitudes from Burkina Faso into Ghana. Now, our police service is telling us that these people whom they describe as bandits, and that's a huge understatement, using military-grade weapons, those are not my words, those are the words of the Inspector General of Police, have infiltrated Ghana. They've come all the way to Tamale and beyond, and they are poised to start attacks any time from now. That must be exceedingly worrying. It must be exceedingly worrying because we had known over the years that this situation was developing and we will get here. What did we do? We sent our security forces into the Volta region to prevent Ghanaians from registering as voters and closed our eye to the creeping threat of international terrorism. This is the price we're going to pay for our official recklessness. We were more interested in the outcome of the voter registration exercise than fighting international terrorism. And this is where we are today. Terrorists have infiltrated our country. They traveled all the way down south to Tamale and beyond. They have military-grade weapons, which they are likely to unleash on us anytime soon. This is the reality. Master, 5-6 years ago, and I dare anybody to challenge this fact, our intelligence services had information that Boko Haram terrorists had established sleeping cells in Ghana. And that these sleeping cells, when activated, will be targeting Nigerian diplomatic missions, Nigerian churches, and Nigerian finance interests. It's about 5 years ago. What did we do about that threat? Talk to any security expert in Ghana, and they will tell you about the insecurity along the west coast of Africa. the hijacking of vessels on the sea, currency trafficking, kidnapping, all of that. We have known that all this time. What have we done about it? If you look at the architecture of West Africa, everybody, every country, every institution should have been alarmed long ago. You take Nigeria. You have Boko Haram operating from the northeast, okay? And from the northeast of Nigeria, they've managed to cause mayhem in other neighboring West African countries. Niger has been their target. Chad has been their target. They've been operating in other areas. They've gone as far as Cameroon and so on. And we know that as a fact. We know of the low-intensity civil war in the Niger Delta area. We know of the secessionist movement in Biafra, the East, and so on. And we know the consequences for the whole of West Africa. We do know that. Indeed, we have known that these Islamic insurgents are moving from the north of Africa, from Libya and other places, into Guinea, into Mali, and so on. We have been aware of this. What did we do? Now, after the wireless message was leaked this week, I traveled to the northern regional capital and stayed for 2 days. As a matter of fact, I came back only yesterday evening. And to my shock, there is no visibility which would act as a deterrent to the insurgents. The Ghanaian public is not being mobilized and put on the alert. What are we doing? By now, communities in those areas where we suspect that the terrorists had moved should be sensitized. Because how do you gather intelligence when the population is asleep? People should be told that if they see any suspicious movements and so on, suspicious people and so on, they should report to the security services. People should be educated to know what amounts to suspicious movement, what amounts to suspicious persons and so on. We should know. The district assemblies must be involved. They must be told what the expectation is of their assemblies. How would the district assemblies mobilize the population in case of a major terrorist attack? And we know the capacity of these terrorist groups that we are dealing with. You know, all of us know their capacity. We know. These are people who enter a kitchen and come out with deadly explosives, just using materials that they can collect from the kitchens and so on. We know that. So, to what extent is the public being made ready for these possible attacks which the Inspector General of Police says are imminent? I don't know. You know, sometimes these discussions open our eyes to many things. And I cannot tell you how deeply shocked I was when my brother and friend, Member of Parliament for Anyanso, whom I believe, started making references to Israeli security. I nearly collapsed in this chair. Israel is a rogue state. It is an apartheid state. Its security services is not to promote human rights. Israeli security service, their interest is not to build a democratic state. Their interest is to promote apartheid and to commit all the heinous crimes they committed around the world and so on. That cannot be a model for the Ghanaian security. The insecurity we are talking about in Ghana has been partly perpetrated by the Israeli security services. Last year, or 2 years ago, a businessman who was coming into this country to do business was kidnapped a few kilometers from the Kotoka International Airport. He was taken into private residence and tortured and smuggled out of this country by the Israeli intelligence. Is this criminal activity the one we want to emulate? Purely criminal activity, is that the one we want to emulate? You understand? So, for me, the Israeli security services does not present an example that we should be emulating. Look, the Nigerian president recently was begging the foreign minister of the United States of America to quickly bring the U.S. African Command headquarters into Africa. To do what? This is the kind of mentality which has led us to this state. We in Ghana have perhaps even done worse. We have not only granted the United States of America the right to establish a military base in our country, we have dedicated Terminal 1 of our airport to the use of U.S. forces. What are the implications of that for national security? This U.S. Army, which is being chased by all kinds of groups all over the world and so on, you brought them here to establish a base here. Huh? When you take rotten fish into a place, what do you expect? You don't expect maggots? You don't expect foul smell and so on? So all of these things add up. They add up. Recently, the major military exercise undertaken by the U.S. Army in West Africa used Ghana as a base. It's a threat. And I fully agree with the Honorable Okujato Ablakwa that we should have used the Nkrumah model for the provision of security for the African people. The African High Command and so on. All these things are already there. This ECOWAS leaders meeting here today, what are they discussing? At the end of the meeting, what will they be doing? Begging France, begging Britain, begging the US and so on to come and use our territories as basis for the promotion of their own interests. These leaders embarrass us, all of them, without exception. They embarrass us by their attitude. They have no confidence in themselves, they have no confidence in their people, and they are not determined to build their own independent security services that will protect us. Always begging Israel, an apartheid state, begging Britain, a former colonial power, begging France, a meddler in our affairs, and so on, to come and protect them. Any wonder we have this situation on our hands? Any wonder we have this situation on our hands? Look, what is happening and beginning to happen is serious. And the earlier our leaders took the manifestations we are seeing seriously and began to act as proper leaders who have confidence in their people to build the structures we need to incorporate the population in the effort to provide security and so on, the better it will be for all of us. Look, we have seen the consequences of these insurgencies throughout the world. You know, and sometimes I sit back and I wonder how some of our people think. Look at the insecurity in Syria. How did it happen? ISIS and co-Minini, how did they get to Syria? The Western media worked overtime to encourage people to go there, the mercenaries. The demented Islamic insurgents and so on were deliberately encouraged and sent into Syria to destabilize Syria. That Syria has become a hub for international terrorism is the result of the actions of the Western countries and Western intelligence services. They developed the situation in Syria. They created the situation, we are now looking up to them for solution. How funny can we be? How funny can we be? The forces that are now stationed in Libya, terrorizing all of us and so on, who created them? Not the Western intelligence agencies. Is it not the Western intelligence agencies who, in their brazen madness to overthrow the Gaddafi regime, created all of these terrorist groups in Libya? Is it not the Western intelligence agencies? Let's wake up. We, the African people, must wake up. And we, the African people, may soon have to take our destinies into our own hands and create the conditions that will be conducive for increasing production to solve the material needs of our people, to provide the material needs of our people, to create the conditions that enable us to reproduce ourselves so that we can survive in the future. There's a lot of work to be done. Because we cannot leave our destinies into the hands of these people who are now parading as our leaders. They don't care about us. They have no vision. They are the people who have no vision. It is not the Nkrumahs and the Ahmed Sekuturis and Modibo Keitas who have no vision. It is the leaders we have today who are begging foreign powers to come and establish military bases on our continent, who have no vision. And they need to be replaced.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. The time is more time. Like Mr. Pratt said. Well, let me just say a big thank you to Sela Radio in Dabala. They are one of the stations that are taking us live. Also to Shine FM and Akachi. And let me do two messages and then we'll jump on to the next topic quickly, because we'll be hearing the Defense Minister talk about the issue of why a private jet, top of the line, is being rented for the president to fly, and some very interesting justifications. The Finance Minister was also supposed to give us an idea how much we were spending, whether Honorable Kujetua Black was right when he mentioned that amount of 2.8 million in the post, but we understand he was unable to do that. But let me guess, A. Farouk is joining us from Tamale North, says, good morning. The insecurity under this administration of the MPP government is alarming and worrisome. The president must wake up. Ghanaians are not safe. Thank you for that message. We see in the UK. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. Thank you for drawing my attention. Now, baby saying a good morning to us. And under President Kufuor, Ghanaians are living in fear and panic. Ghana is worse than Afghanistan. If police are being killed in broad daylight by armed robbers, what will happen to the ordinary Ghanaian? The hoodlums and vigilantes are more powerful than our security forces. Security no good, economy no good, infrastructure no day, road no good, everything basa. Fix the country is a must. Thank you. Habib Sena sent this message a bit earlier, and she says we cannot rule out the role of vigilantes in a rising crime rate in Ghana, caused largely by the MPP government. They should deal with the situation urgently to prevent Ghana going rapidly down the abyss. So let's move on to the issue of the next topic. But let me remind you that Obastima train is on the GIJ campus. Very important, from 11 a.m. Honorable, on the issue of the private jet, let's have Honorable Kujetua Blakwa. I can only afford 15 minutes for it.
15 minutes? He needs a whole hour.
I'm sure you can manage.
Well, Sena, I will try. Thank you very much, Uncle Kwesi Pratt. So it has been some 3 weeks now, specifically on the 27th of May, that I put out the outcome of investigations I had carried out into the president's recent travels between the 16th and the 25th of May 2021 to France, Belgium, and South Africa. I revealed in that publication that the president had opted to use a top-of-the-range Airbus ACJ 320 Neo, the world's most spectacular, luxurious business jet. The business jet in issue was manufactured in France by Airbus and then sent to Switzerland for a good 13 months just to make it the world's most luxurious aircraft. Indeed, if our viewers and our listeners Google the ACJ 320 Neo, the first thing you see is that this is the world's most expensive, the world's most luxurious aircraft. It's a wonder in the aviation industry. How they spent 13 months in Switzerland in sprucing it up. This is an aircraft which ordinarily, if you look at the size of it, should be taking 150 to 170 passengers. But they have removed the passenger seats and reduced it to a 17 capacity at night and 19 capacity a day aircraft to make room for the luxury reconfiguration that they want to achieve. So there's a master bedroom in there. There's an ensuite bathroom with showers, a rectangular shape bathroom, the widest bathroom you will find in any aircraft in the world. And all of this is documented by the manufacturers. If you go on their website, where they provide the specs of the aircraft, they tell you all of these things. It has dining facilities, round-the-clock IT facilities, the most sophisticated IT facilities any aircraft has ever had. Gold-plated and all of that. These are not my descriptions. Viewers, listeners can go on the internet and Google the ACJ 320 Neo. It is the most top of the range, luxurious aircraft ever manufactured. It took them 13 months just for the luxury aspect and the design of the interior. So if you are going to rent that aircraft, you will pay the highest amount that you can pay for in the aviation industry. Approximately £15,000 an hour. In that publication, I revealed that the aircraft, which is registered as G-Kelt and owned by a company called Acropolis Aviation, based in Farnborough, United Kingdom, has leased the aircraft to the Ghanaian president at approximately £15,000 an hour. The president used the aircraft from Accra to France for the Paris Africa Summit on the 16th of May. That was a 6.5-hour journey. Then the president used that aircraft, the same aircraft, the ACJ 320 Neo, from France to South Africa, Johannesburg. And then from Johannesburg, that was on the 20th, France to Johannesburg was on the 23rd of May, and then on the 25th of May, the president used it from Johannesburg to Accra. What I did was to calculate just the active flying time, because I wanted to put out a very conservative estimate. I didn't want to include the other incidentals, so that perhaps if there had been some discounts, I am not accused for exaggerating. So what I have put out is the minimum amount. Minimum. £15,000 an hour. You multiply that by 23 hours of the total flying time. That gives you £345,000. On the 27th of May, when I put this out, the prevailing exchange rate for that day, you get 2.82 million Ghana cedis for just 23 hours. You will observe that I did not include the ferry period when the aircraft is flying empty to come and pick you up in Accra from Farnborough to Accra. I didn't include that. Where the aircraft is flying back to Farnborough after it had concluded its work and left the president in Accra, going back to Farnborough. If you are conversant with the aviation industry and with these charter arrangements, you would have to pay for it. I did not include the landing rights, particularly when there is a layover, because in South Africa, they spent a night. And you have no idea how much the landing charges are as you wait on the tarmac overnight, hour after hour. I did not include the hotel bills. I have not included per diem. And I have not included the others who are now confessing that they also went there and flew commercial. At least the Honorable Minister of State for Finance, the Honorable Charles Edubuahin, has told Parliament at the Appointments Committee that he flew commercial to meet the President. So I've not added all of these costs. So the 2.8 million Ghana cedis is a very conservative. I have been exceedingly generous to the President in this matter. When we put out the information, the initial claims was that, oh, you know, the Falcon, there was an incident in 2018, it's not really in good shape. The Falcon cannot fly for long hours. Do you want the President doing trotro, especially in these COVID times and all of that? All kinds of initial attempts to justify why the Falcon was not used. So I decided to file two urgent questions in Parliament. One directed at the Honorable Minister responsible for Defense, to tell Parliament and the people of this country the state of the presidential jet, the Falcon 9G EXE, and whether it is airworthy. The second question was directed at the Honorable Minister for Finance, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, to come to Parliament and tell us the full cost, because what I had done indicative pricing after reaching out to Aviation Acropolis to find out how much they charge for an hour. Then I looked at, because I tracked the aircraft using Flight Radar 24. And in the aviation industry now, a lot of these things are transparent. Once you get the airline's registration number, you can track all the way. And so I had been tracking from the 16th of May, knowing where the aircraft is going and all of that, calculating the hours. And so it's not difficult at all to know how these things are playing out. So the finance minister to tell us the full cost to the Ghanaian taxpayer. The Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament admitted these questions on the 1st of June. 1st of June. The Defence Minister was billed to respond on Wednesday this week, which should be about the 16th of June, if I'm right. And then the Finance Minister to respond on Thursday, the 17th of June. The Defence Minister was in Parliament and has since responded. If you listen to the Defence Minister carefully, the Defence Minister has confirmed beyond any scintilla of doubt. There can be no equivocation. The Defence Minister was clear and unambiguous that the Falcon, the presidential jet, is in good condition. We all heard the Defence Minister. The Defence Minister said it is serviceable. So those who initially were making claims that, oh, you know, the Falcon probably was not available, the Falcon could not have taken the president to France on this trip. Clearly, those initial defenses have collapsed. They are not sustainable. Now, after the Defence Minister told us in Parliament that the Falcon is in good condition, is in pristine condition, He then went further to give some justifications as to why the president decided to travel with the ACJ 320neo, the world's most luxurious, most opulent, and most extravagant aircraft. When the defense minister was speaking, I was writing, you could tell these are my notes from Parliament. I wrote down the reasons he gave. First, the defense minister says breaks for refueling, that the president did not want to, in this COVID era, be breaking for refueling. As I put out in Parliament, in my supplementary questions, I challenged the Honorable Defense Minister on that this Falcon 9G 900 EXE is a long-range flight. It's a long-range aircraft. I read to the Defense Minister in Parliament this Hansard of 19th March 2008, when President Kufuor caused his Defense Minister to come to Parliament and make a case for parliamentary approval to buy the Falcon. This is what Parliament was told. This is the Hansard of 19th March 2008 at column 2122. The Defense Minister at the time said, and I quote, "The Falcon 900 EX Easy support aircraft would be able to carry 10 to 15 passengers and cover over 4,000 nautical miles. That is Asia, North America, and Eastern Europe." The technical team from the Ministry of Defense further indicated that the aircraft has a lifespan of at least 20 years. So this Falcon is not for short range, short distance. Indeed, even the EX, and listeners can Google this, why this aircraft, the Falcon, our presidential jet, is called 900 EX. EX stands for extended range. Extended range. In the Dassault Falcon category, our Falcon is the one with the longest range. If you research on this, if you go on the Dassault Falcon website, I have the download here. They will tell you, and this is on the website, viewers can go on the website of Dassault Falcon. They say, quote, "No matter how you look at it, the Dassault Falcon 900 EX is an impressive private jet with ranges of over 5,000 miles, an incredibly comfortable cabin, an innovative 3-engine configuration for overwater safety and fighter jet design strength. It is ideal for transoceanic and transcontinental trips and offers great versatility in flight planning." So, ideal for transoceanic, transcontinental. So, this aircraft, it flies more than 8 hours non-stop before you need to refuel. The journey from Accra to Paris is 6.5 hours. So this aircraft could have taken the president to France. This same aircraft could have taken the president to Belgium, France to Belgium, less than an hour. France to South Africa is 11 hours. So what you do is that you fly back to Accra, you refuel. If you want to, and refueling, when the defense minister says, "Oh, COVID, you don't want the president stepping out and all of that." I have been in this presidential jet with President Mahama, President Mills. When it's time for refueling, you are given two options. Because refueling takes less than an hour. You either stay in the aircraft and it's refueled, or if you want to disembark and wait at the lounge. So if you are afraid of COVID, you stay. And in any case, you are going to South Africa, you are doing one stop in Accra. Accra is where you stay. You left from Accra. So you can't be afraid of COVID in Accra, your own home backyard. So all the excuses the defense minister was giving in Parliament. Then he talks about bigger seating capacity. That this Falcon is an 11-seater. I challenge him, if you look at the hands, that it's 15-seater. Then he said, okay, you know, you have to, he's not adding the crew. So if you take out the crew, it's 11-seater. And he says in times where the luggage is big, it comes down to 8. You are going for just few days. I don't know why people should be carrying big luggage. traveling for just a few days and coming back. But you, let's say, we want to buy the seating capacity issue. Wouldn't you think that, because listen to the defense minister, he says that security and then journalists will travel with the president. Wouldn't you then think that the option that they will consider will be a bigger capacity jet? This ACJ 320 neo, this luxury aircraft in issue, is only a 17-seater. What's the difference between 15 and 17? 15 and 17, that two seat space. How many journalists, how many security personnel can go in? So again, that defense collapses. Then the issue of COVID-19, we've demolished that. The most fantastic one, I reserved that for the last, is the one which went viral, where he said that the Falcon, no president can bath in it. You can't freshen up. But with this ACJ 20 neo, president can bath. Can you believe that? I think in the history of parliamentary responses to questions, this will go down as one of the most outstanding. I mean, I was stunned, and everybody was shocked. And I've been asking, Sena, when the president is working in Accra or in Ghana as president, does he take his bath every 6.5 hours? Because Accra to Paris is just 6.5 hours. If you were traveling to parts of Bono, parts of Western region, the Sushiyosu area, I don't want to even bring in Tamale, Bolga, Wa, and those people. You spend more hours. Somebody going to France will arrive before you get there. Before you. You know, so all of these excuses, what is clear is that the excuses are not making sense because there was just no justification. This whole arrangement was just for comfort. Those who put this together, this whole private charter together, were looking for one thing: total luxury. Let's fly as Arabian kings. And you see, the irony should not be lost on anybody. What was this whole trip about? The president was going to France to make a strong case for debt cancellation. I remember that the next day after his speech, the newspapers from the stable of our friends on the other side all carried front page. The president has made a strong case for debt cancellation for Africa because of the impact of COVID. And see how the president travels to go and ask for debt forgiveness. Then the president goes to Belgium and asks for a loan of 170 million euros. A loan, not a grant. Some people have said, oh, let's consider the money he came with. That is a loan. We will pay back. There is more irony. The president went to France. President Macron is still using the presidential jet, which they bought coincidentally the same year we bought our presidential jet. Our presidential jet arrived in 2010. The Kotam 001 arrived in 2010 in France. The United States of America is still using the presidential jet which flew President Bush the first in 1990. They are now making arrangements for a new presidential jet, which they say will arrive in 2025. United States of America, their jet arrived 1990. They are using it. Ours arrived. And if you look at the parliamentary Hansard, we're told that minimum lifespan, 20 years. This is just the 11th year. So why do you do this? Why do you do this? This is a president who told us he will protect the public purse. This is a president who May Day this year said that, look, because times are hard, because workers, he was addressing Ghanaian workers, organized labor, that manage your expectations. You can't get the wage increases you are looking for. We are also leading by example. So we are not increasing our salaries this year. Even though the president knows that as politicians, our salaries are not reviewed every year. It's at the end of the 4 years that if there's any back pay and all of that, it is arranged for us. But let's at least appreciate the gesture that the president was talking about a period of austerity, so they want to lead by example. Is this how you lead by example? When there's a functioning presidential jet, which is working. This presidential jet, there's nothing wrong with it. This is Ghana's 4th presidential jet. And one of the youngest. President Nkrumah's presidential jet, which arrived in 1962, he used it throughout to 1966 when he was overthrown with the German pilot Hannah Reich. The second one arrived in 1976 under Achampong, the Fokker 28. Then President Rawlings ordered the Gulfstream GII in 1998. This is the 4th presidential jet. There is absolutely no excuse for the president not using this presidential jet, like his predecessors had. President Mills used this, President Mahama used this jet. Now, the claim that this jet even is not that comfortable, if you want to freshen up, you cannot. It's not true. I have here the specs of the Falcon, the current Falcon that we have. It says it has standard seating between 12 to 13 passengers in a double club configuration, plus a 3-person divan. The divan is like, you can recline the chair for it to become like a bed with a rest area for your feet and all of that. With a mid-cabin 4-place conference grouping. The full-size galley is configured with equipment for hot meal preparation, including a high-temperature oven, microwave, and coffee maker. The aft baggage compartment, which holds 127 cubic feet of baggage, is pressurized and air-conditioned and can be accessed in flight. Sound levels within the cabin are very low, and temperature distribution is even throughout all parts of the cabin. I recall that traveling with President Mahama, 1 hour to arrival, the crew will come, wake him up, present hot towel to him, can freshen up. He lands and then he meets the welcome party, and official business continues. It's a comfortable aircraft, the Falcon. If you Google, actually, best African presidential jet, we are in the top 5. It's only Nigeria, South Africa, and Morocco who are ahead of us in terms of luxury presidential jets. All the other countries are behind us. We rank very highly. Finally, let me state that what happened in Parliament, where the finance minister, having been given more than a 2-week notice, the defense minister has come to respond. You even had an extra day to prepare, to come on Thursday. Then you come to Parliament very early on Thursday and tell the clerk at table that you are not ready. Took all of us by surprise. What is government hiding on this matter? The business statement was presented on Friday, a copy of which I have here. Programming business for the ensuing week, for next week. And you won't believe that the finance minister doesn't appear on the schedule of business. When I raised it after the business statement was presented by the deputy majority group leader, the Honorable Afenyomakin informed Parliament that the finance minister says that he needs more time to prepare adequately and give us very good responses. I mean, this is expenditure that has taken place already. I spoke to Aviation Acropolis. It's cash down. If you don't pay, they don't move the aircraft. So we have paid already. All these hotel bills, the per diems, all have been paid already. It's just about adding, simple addition, add your receipts and come to Parliament and account. Why this delay tactics? What is government hiding? Why should it take you already 2 weeks from 1st June to 17th June? You did it. That's more than 2 weeks. You failed to come and respond. The whole of next week, you say, is not adequate time. Can you believe that? The whole of next week. And we don't know when. And I think we need to amend our standing orders so that ministers don't take these liberties, don't have these laxities.
Thank you. Let me just something I was saying, the description of the aircraft provided by Honorable Kujato is really enjoying the fact. Why would the president of a poor country rent such a luxurious aircraft only to go and beg for debt relief when we still have schools and kids? Why? Are we cursing or we have lost our senses? Ambassador Sam Kiyale says the further irony of the whole visit to France is that 52 old African heads of state flying all manner of aircraft to France to meet a man young enough to be their son to ask for debt relief when they could state a powerful claim that the West should pay us reparation and apologies for raping Africa of our natural and human resources. Why could that conference not be held in Africa? That's from His Excellency Ambassador Sam. Oh.
Yes, in fact, this whole story reminds me of the Canadian leadership who was asked to pay the state for, using state resources for his family-related business. Granted, in this case, I think it's a state business that was run. I have followed the discussions so far. I'm happy that questions have been raised, especially in Parliament, so that the discussions are done in public view and that responses are also largely under oath, or let me say, under oath. Yeah. So, Defense Minister made some points, and I think what was very clear was that he raised concerns that he thought were genuinely reason for consideration for a rental arrangement, and yes, the cost involved on the outside is quite huge. Granted, sometimes there are other arrangements which I am not privy to. What I mean by other arrangements is that, for instance, some companies beg Jay-Z to use their services to create more awareness for their business. Some companies also give their clothing to celebrities to wear at no cost to the celebrity.
This was a commercial arrangement
to promote their business. So I don't know. That's why I'm just saying I don't know what the arrangements are, except for the guesstimates. And these are guesstimates that Honorable Okujato Ablako has given. We may be doing some damage prematurely without waiting for the numbers man, which is the finance minister, to come out in Parliament to tell us. And I think I'll be very much comfortable then to maybe make some comments. But invariably, I think that the Falcon is a wonderful piece of equipment, and I'm hoping that it's still in good shape, and we should ensure that it's in good shape, and the pilots are, very skilled and well trained to keep our president safe and secure, and we pray that when the finance minister comes out in public to let us know the cost, the real cost involved, we'll be in a position to then say some. And I'll plead also with my honourable member. I haven't been in Parliament for very long, but just like court cases, sometimes it's best to wait for it to play out in court, before we go public. And I think and hope that we can, keep that in perspective, so that we wait for the in-depth in Parliament discussions, and when it is not apt, then we probably would come out and talk some more.
But how long are we going to wait? You're in government, so maybe you know.
I'm only saying that I think Ijebo will come, which is finance minister will come and answer. Granted, it's a luxurious flight. I mean, I think for a third world country, to a large extent, not knowing the entire arrangement, I think, it's a luxurious one. But there may be wonderful arrangements in the background, which, as the usual thing, you and I were not there. So I would hope that some answers will come in the future. But in addition to that, let me just state this, that it is always important that we keep our president safe, or any government official traveling. And some of our travel policies have to be looked at. In my previous life, if you're traveling more than 6 hours, you'll be put on a first class. I mean, my previous work, I used to do. So, I don't know. I think as a country, we need to be very clear in terms of what arrangements we have for even state officials, so that it doesn't happen that I'm doing a state business on first class and then another member is complaining. I'm just saying, because then it becomes a very agreed upon standard thing. And then maybe we might have to put a cap on how much can be spent on your travel as a president, as a vice president, as any person running state business. So these things call for action to cut it off. Who knows how much our next president might want to spend a flight? Because if you charter some of the Dubai airlines, they are even more serious, and then the charges are way like quadruple this amount. So I think from a legislative standpoint, I think that maybe you can drive the discussion so that we then put a cap on what state institutions can spend on foreign travels or per a foreign travel. That might be my 2 cents of contribution on this matter.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Okay, ALHAJI didn't pick from actually. Says it is very pathetic how our leaders are taking us for a ride. How in the name of Allah can you spend such money on travel, whilst our schools don't have classrooms to learn from, when our health sectors lack a lot of facilities, when our rules are the worst to talk about? It is just disgusting being a Ghanaian at this moment, and some Ghanaians will defend this all in the name of politics. Are we serious as a nation? Allah save Mother Ghana. And Kobnaji, Continental and Kranza South, Sena, the rule of law is not working in our country, Ghana, during this period of the New Patriotic Party. It has brought insecurity in the country because a crab does not produce a bird as its offspring. Gabriela.
In 2019, President Akufo-Addo traveled to the 7th Japan International Conference on Africa's Development, again on a chartered flight, $17,000 per hour. This trip that Honorable Ablakwa is making the case about,
you can call me son.
In conversion, son of man, in conversion comes to about $20,000. Which, looking at 2019 and 2021, there isn't much difference. The fact of the matter is that our president likes opulence. And unfortunately, when you are a leader of a middle-income country like Ghana, with the kind of challenges that we have, we as a country cannot sustain ostentatious lifestyles. In your personal capacity, perhaps you may be able to give yourself those largesse. But when your travels, your trips, your comfort is dictated by the taxpayer, I think that as leaders, personal comfort ought to be sacrificed for the greater benefit and good of all. In my personal capacity, I could travel business class. When I was an officer in the Vice President's office, I was made to travel economy. Because per my category, that is how we are supposed to travel. This argument that you have we need a larger aircraft because they are traveling with 18 people. The presidential jet takes 14 people. And I've traveled on the presidential jet. In fact, one of the best pictures is me descending from the presidential jet with the pilots and the others in line. The cameraman did a good job for me. It's a very iconic picture. No, it's one of those moments when you may not descend from that aircraft again, and so you got your one moment of fame. And Sena, this aircraft is a very spacious aircraft.
Very, very.
Argument that he come back in the sky. If you, the leader, the president, you've had your bath, and all the people else following you have not bathed, then what's the use of you bathing? The presence of the others will still... I'm sorry. But it will still reflect on you. The current presidential jet that we have has a toilet. It has a counter sink that you can brush your teeth, wash your face, whatever you have to do, even as a bed. The times when I traveled with the late vice president, 30 minutes to touchdown. He gets up, goes in there, changes his suit, refreshes himself, perfect gentleman, back on his seat for landing. So I don't know what they want an aircraft with a bathroom for. As I said, yes, how does the proverb even go? Said, Nana Jerry, we are no Suasa. Nana Jerry was so hard, we want to mean Jerry View. And this habit that, or this culture that we seem to be propagating as a country for leadership, to be honest, I think the leadership should sacrifice a bit more for us.
Yeah.
Why should the country invest in the jet? You leave the jet to the use of other people, which the Minister of Defense was telling us that chiefs, who are we running our presidential jet like a tractor that anybody can now call on Air Force or whoever, and then the aircraft is just given to them to go and do their private business? Or is it an aircraft that the people of Ghana have invested in for the comfort of a category of people, 2 individuals? Even the speaker doesn't go on his trips with the presidential jet. So Nana Akufo-Addo and his men should please spare us. Times are hard for Ghanaians. Our youth have now picked up guns and on motorbikes, causing mayhem because they want money. He and his people should cut down on their expenditure. This past week, Bank of Ghana data, currently for first quarter of 2021, domestic revenue is in short of compensation and interest payments. In other words, what we generate domestically as our revenue can no longer sustain these 2 items.
Yeah.
And yet, the GRA tells us that they have exceeded their targets. What does that tell you? That even the money we are generating is not enough. So we cannot sustain this lifestyle. If President Akufo-Addo wants to travel like the whoever that he wants to portray himself to be, showman, whatever, he can afford to pay for those trips himself. If we can even give him funds and start giving him accolades for the sacrifices he's making for us, then now he's traveling from his own pocket. But when the taxpayer is fielding that bill, please, don't go on international conference with luxury airlines and go and beg foreign countries that come and give us debt relief. Who is going to give you debt relief when you come looking like an Arabian king? And those your trips that you've been going, how much have we benefited from these your trips? We don't even know. In 2019, what of 2020? When in the budget statement, they have spent about $70 million on foreign travels. And yet we still don't know what exactly they have done for us. Hospital promises, we don't see. Go to Lajana Hospital. From Danko Circle all the way to Lajana Hospital, you see all the billboards. Mr. President, thank you for Lajana Hospital. Today, Lajana Hospital is a football field for children. You broke down the old one, and now you've turned the place into a playground for children. So you should go back and get his priorities right. this, as I've said, this ostentatious lifestyle, we cannot sustain it for him. He should get with the program. Times are hard. He should start tightening his own belt, because we are not tightening our belt for him to be enjoying in opulence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Papa Wemba from Accra, on our WhatsApp line, says, we are very proud of you, Mr. Blackwell, for the good work you're doing for Mother Ghana. Your people at Northern family and the NDC will be proud of having you in their party and family respectively. Thank you. Also, Sena, not only did the late president of Tanzania save his country from incurring huge traveling costs, but also managed to raise funds internally to develop Tanzania. Could our president do same, since he knows the money to develop this country is here in Ghana, but not in France or Belgium? Could you send that from Takadi? Thank you, Kojo. And let me end with this one from James in Kumasi. When did the IGP return from heaven? Please, let's refinish the presidential jet with a washroom to make the life of the president complete for whatever luxury he wants. Mr. Pratt.
No, he yielded 5 minutes, not all the time.
Very fair, to the defense minister. I want to be exceedingly fair to the defense minister. So the first concession I'd like to make is that nobody was expecting His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to travel on camelback, to France. Nobody was expecting that, and nobody has said that that was the expectation. The defense minister offers a number of explanations, and one is that if the Falcon was used, it could not take all of the president's delegation, and that there was the need for another aircraft if the Falcon was used. The information we are getting is that there were 2 aircrafts in Paris, including the Falcon. And that collapses the defense minister's argument completely. Okay. And I'm being very fair to the defense minister. Okay. Now he also says that the president usually travels with a large delegation. And that if we have a bigger aircraft, all of them can go on one aircraft. From what I know, it is not possible for any president anywhere in the world to go with an entire entourage on one flight. It is not possible. No head of state does that. The security detail must arrive at least 24 hours before the president arrives. So you can't avoid that. They have to go and check his hotel, check the keys, do all the security things before he arrives. Part of the delegation has to be there to check meeting schedules, check the routes, and so on. You can't avoid that. You understand? So that also is out of the way. I'm going to be very brief. The controversy now is on whether or not the defense minister actually said that one of the most important reasons is that the president needs an aircraft on which he can take his bath. I've heard the defense minister denying that vigorously. And I've heard the defense minister both in private and in public. I've heard the defense minister both in private and in public. So the question is then put, what did you then say? You say, well, when I started, I said shower. And then I realized that I had made a mistake. And I said, refresh. Freshen up. Okay. Shower obviously means taking a bath. But the defense minister said, he said that in error. Let's grant him that. He said that in error. No problem. He said that in error. What didn't he say in error? That the president needs to freshen up. What does that mean? When somebody says that he needs to freshen up, what does that mean? Spray deodorant under his armpit? Put lavender on his body? Brush his teeth? Of course, you cannot be talking about combing the hair for the president, because there's nothing to comb. The president that I know, there's nothing to comb. So combing the hair cannot be part of the freshening up. No, I'm serious. I want to be very fair to this defense minister. You understand? So, freshening up, what does it mean? Or putting pancake on the face? Now, what special features do you need in an aircraft for a president to brush his teeth, if that is freshening up? What special features do you need in an aircraft for the president to spray deodorant under his armpit? Or to put lavender on his body? Unless there's a new definition for freshening up. What else could there be? Or you put eyelashes. And eyelashes, what special features do you need in a plane for the president to put on eyelashes, artificial eyelashes, and so on? You know, sometimes, let's take it out. The minister took it out, let's take it out. Sammy, are you not being too helpful to the minister? Because if we take bathroom out, what special features do you need in an aircraft for freshening up in the air?
This doesn't make sense.
What special features do you need for an aircraft? Special fitting for brushing teeth? For putting on lavender? Or for putting on deodorant? I don't understand these things. You understand? Look, I think that the Honorable Adumako Kisi, I think he is the person who led us to the solution. We need to have a policy on presidential travels. Clear policy. Look, the United States of America has a policy on official travel, not just presidential travels, official travels. Yeah. That is why when the president travels with Air Force One on some errands, he has to pay from his pocket. It's on the official policy. Yeah. Yeah. Many countries have official policy for presidential travels. You don't leave it to my good friend, Honorable Dominic Mitiwu, to decide whether there should be special features for brushing teeth and combing non-existent hair and so on. And it's like somebody telling me that Honorable Kudefu Abrakwa is traveling for a conference and that he went with a comb. Comb to do what? Master,
I thought he's my friend.
Let me use the time that's left to do a few messages. This one is from Gishan. It says a good day to the panel, especially to Mr. Dixon. I'm guessing you. Okay. It says, I'm happy with the submission from the gentleman in the white shirts. I was confused until I saw the camera for that was Mr. Peter Tavla I was talking about. Yes, it looks like, yeah. He spoke with measured reason. I hope this idea is killed from the outset. Are we trying to emulate some other countries, or we are trying to think for ourselves? That's what it says. Dr. Percy sounds quite an sensitive one. It says at the heart of current controversies about presidential travel and bathrooms in the sky, following set of facts. When our president is the living embodiment of entitlement, Ghana is his property, period. Regardless of the extra taxation and austerity imposed on Ghanaians by first-term failure, our president would allow no diminution in his creature comforts and luxuries. Nana Akufo-Addo plus NPP insists that long-suffering Ghanaian taxpayers must live with these facts. Simple. For the rest of Nana Akufo-Addo's glorious second term, his ministers, appointees, plus paid spin doctors or propagandists must regularly lie and engage in weird logic to cover up our president. You can count the annoying lies and evasion of minister nominees before Parliamentary Appointments Committee. The most recent cock and bull stories on Sputnik vaccines, True Guru Boys, and now this latest joke, presidential showers in flight. A major part of our problem is that many of these lying ministers or court jesters don't come across as, he says, very intelligent. This one is coming from Mystic in Sawam. Says it's preposterous for some NDP communicators to be defending the indefensible recklessly, and hollow comment by the IGP. Has the IGP been to heaven before? Do Ghanaians pay taxes to heaven? The inept, corrupt, and insensitive government promised to protect the public purse, But what we are seeing now is a profligate expenditure. A few more of your messages. This is from Stephen in Kwakwa, who says a good morning. I said that I like the analysis of Mr. Blakwa. The current government is super incompetent. Ghana is the most incompetent Ghana has ever had. Where was the so-called inflated cocoa rose report? Second interchange inflated cost report. 123 billion since the independence to 301 billion. A variance of 178 billion within 4 years. What exactly can this government boast of? Come to a brim road. The taxpayers' money previous government used to build the drainages is being taken off for new ones. What's wrong with us as Ghanaians? Thank you very much, Stephen, for that message. Let me, some more of those messages. Jamestown, this one says, good morning. We all don't talk about the taxi driver who caused the delay for the motorcycle to catch up with the pickup to kill the policeman. So that was mentioned. I guess I'm hoping you heard that. Could you from Akpadi again? The state of insecurity in the country is so alarming. The rate of missing persons in our country now is increasingly becoming worrying. So now help me ask the Ghana police about what has happened to the police visibility program. Now the former IGP and says a good morning to all of us. Thank you, Kojo, for that. And Reginald says Ghana would have been a better place to stay if we have at least one of Honorable Samuel Okudzeto, a Black West type in every region. I admire him a lot. That's coming from Reginald. This is William Pacheco says, how can Sena, okay, he's sent the same question as the part was asking, Honorable Okudzeto, Black West to me. The one about the poem.
Yours is shining this morning.
James in Obuasi says, in fact, Nanado is really causing harm than good to this nation. Even students are not able to pay their fees at the tertiary level just because of high fee charge. After we manage our own way to complete, we don't get jobs to do again. Why? With the youth, we are struggling. It's very pathetic after completing tertiary and not getting a job to do. What's he doing for the youth? All he knows is to bath when he's flying. The new youth are suffering. That's James in Obuasi. I rarely read messages from this platform. So today, since I have a bit more time, let me. Okay, I have about 2 minutes to go. This one says, Sena, I am ALHAJI Kucho. He said, Nanado is the best for this nation because for a very long time, our minerals, cocoa, and other money were kept. So he, as Omambapa, has to spend the cash before he dies. So let's have patience and pray for. Pray for him. I guess is what he says. Well, let me end the show here. A big thank you to you for joining us this morning. A few things to say. Let me say, send condolences to Priscilla Hemans, who is burying his father, her father today. Okay. I was coming there.
To still be alive.
Yes. Because I am hearing from the minorities, are even challenging a claim by the government that there is Russians. The minorities that. So it's an issue that we probably can table for next week. Okay. Well, so but let me once again condolences to Priscilla Hemans, condolences to the family of Mr. Kokwa Fokpa, who is also being buried today. And let me also say, next week, when we are sitting on this set, one of the people who actually contributed greatly to the prominence that this program gets on Saturdays is Mr. Bafoboni, who will be buried next week. He passed on a while ago. We'll be burying him next week, saying our final farewell to the great man, Mr. Bafoboni. And so, yeah. Okay.
He was also buried yesterday in Tamale.
Okay. So condolences to the family of ALHAJI Kasole. So we've lost two very strong backbones, but the show will continue. Mr. Pratt is sitting right across me. He is the manager of the Inside Newspaper. I realized that he edited himself when he said He's not a journalist who makes the headlines. He said he's not semi-retirement. He's a legend in industry. A big thank you.
He was only being modest.
Yes. A big thank you to Gabriela Tete who joined us today. And a big thank you to, I'm guessing, Honorable Dixon Adoma Kukisi, because I just read Dixon from one of the messages.
Yeah,
What was he nominated for?
When?
When the nominations came out, did I see his name?
Initially, there was indication that he may be.
I would have been better if it was so.
I didn't watch the betting.
I'm sure it's just a matter of time. And it's a fine gentleman.
It's wonderful to see Honorable some of the people talk about once again. It's always wonderful to have him on the platform. He used to be very synonymous to the show. When I started hosting the show, there couldn't be 2 weeks without seeing Honorable Peter Tabla. I hope I get to see him.
He has promised to come next week. What's the problem?
Oh, okay. That'll be wonderful. So it's a promise I'll keep you to. So next week, we have already booked
people in Norton, he has made a promise. If he doesn't keep it, you know who your MP is.
Once I'll be there with them, they'll be happy to have me in Norton.
You're not going to keep your promise.
Oh, well, you are promising on my behalf, so we'll do our best.
Well, so thank you to all our affiliate stations who carried us live. I'm 92.3 FM, Volta 1 TV, and several affiliates across the country. My name is Sena Nombo from the crew at Pan-African Television. We wish you the best, enjoy the rest of the weekend actually. And to those who are burying someone today, our condolences to you. And have a fruitful week and meet us here same time next week.